I'm very happy meeting with the young Japanese youth. Because I always feel, and also telling people, me, age now over 70, now myself 75. So we belongs to 20th century. The 20th century gone. 20th century, we witnessed century of bloodshed, century of violence. According to some historian, the last century, over 200 millions of people killed through violence. So then later part of the century, desire for peace, non-violence, start, right? Resentment to violence, or some kind of feeling of fed up about violence. If you start later part of 20th century, then beginning of this 20th century, the desire for peace really increasing. In that field, you, Japanese people, because your own experience during Second World War, you suffer immensely. And actually 2 nuclear bomb, actually experienced by Japanese people, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So you are the leading nation for peace or against war, particularly against a nuclear weapon. So now you, people age, say, 20, 30 or below, you are the people of this century, 21st century. Now, 21st century, about now 10 years past, 90 years yet to come. So, what kind of century will be much depend on you, this generation. So I'm indeed very happy meeting with you. And also the interact. Oh, so exchange of views. I'm very happy. Now, I want to tell you, in different parts of the world, number of people who have the feeling we humanity basically negative nature. So violence is part of human nature. So therefore, the world doomed survey. Doomed survey. Doomed. So that kind of sort of view, I think that is totally mistake, wrong. Here there are pockets, violence there, still very much there. But if you look overall picture, 6 billion human beings seems to see through 20th century sort of a lot of suffering, we humanity becoming more mature. So people, now for example, the concept of war, in early part of 20th century and later part of 20th century, big change. And also the concept of also the environment, issue of environment. In early part, I think maybe very few, but generally no concern, no awareness. We also have the responsibility to take care about this planet. And then, so at that time, you see, people just, you see, consume everything. No awareness, limitation of these nature resources. Then also, concept of spirituality. In early part of 20th century, people only talk about material development, value of matters. Later part of 20th century, began to feel there is limitation of material value. Ultimately, peace of mind is very essential. So, paying some attention about importance of peace of mind. So, whether believer or non-believer, now more and more people now talking and thinking about value of spirituality. And also people, because you see, generally, you see, facing some kind of crisis of moral ethics. So that also brings interest about our moral ethics. Then also in 20th century, in early part of 20th century, the things can change by sort of, what's the organization with expenses of individual freedom. Looks the Bolshevik Revolution, 1917. And then certain sort of different sort of centralized sort of institution start. Made every effort but failed. So eventually, it became very clear, human individual creativity is very, very essential. In order to utilize individual creativity, individual freedom is very, very important. So these are big change within 1 century. In the 20th century. So therefore, judging from overall picture, because of humanity becoming more mature, more realistic, so therefore things are sort of better and better. 1996. I met late Queen Mother of England. At that year, her own age, 96. So she observed whole century, 20th century. So when I met her, I asked her, since you observed almost whole century, so according to you, world becoming better or remain same or worse? Without hesitation, she mentioned better. World is improving. Her reason, she mentioned 2 things. Concept of human right and right of self-determination. When she was young, not sort of common, these concepts. Nowadays, the human right and right of self-determination, these things are universal. She made these 2 things as an example. So then, to some extent, myself, I born 1935. So just the beginning of Second World War. You Japanese army, I think already in China, isn't it? 35, isn't it? Around 35. I can't remember very exact. Anyway, the Second World War about to start in Europe, Nazi Germany, and Italy, Mussolini, you see these fascist, what do you call them, fascist, you see these develop. So then, after Second World War, Korean War, Vietnam War, and so on. So almost it's in my whole sort of the early part of whole my life is often news, often war. And these immense violence fail to solve human problem. In fact, increasing more problem. Now today's so-called terrorism, this also traces of or symptom of previous centuries' mistake. So war, I think using violence maximum way, I think instead of solving problem, reduce problem, but actually, you see, because of that seedling, right? Implant seeds of further sort of problems. Now, unfortunately, in this early period of 21st century, Iraq war, exactly, you see, same. President Bush's sort of motivation, good. Aim is good to bring democracy in Iraq, but method, violent. So, unexpected consequences will happen. So just before Iraq crisis happened, millions of people from Australia up to the United States, you see, express their opposition for using violence. So these are, I feel, the humanity becoming more mature and becoming more realistic. And through our own experience, you see, now we pay more attention in certain sort of field in which previously neglected. So I feel humanity, after several thousand years, nobody knows what will happen. But at least, you see, 21st century, 22nd century, 23rd century, I think we, humanity, our planet, certainly be more peaceful, more compassionate, more happier. There is possibilities there. But then entirely depend on our own effort and vision, clear vision. Then also I said, I think worthwhile to add, the early part of 20th century, or mid-20th century, the nations competing construction of nuclear bombs. Now, in later part of 20th century, now these recent sort of months, the important nations, mainly United States and Russian Federation, now seriously talking, reducing a nuclear warhead, and eventually total sort of ban nuclear weapons. These are very, very positive signs. So because of that kind of background, because there is real possibility of better world, so I am just another human being out of 6 billion human beings. I always believe everyone have the responsibility to think about the world. I'm Tibetan, but we belong to 6 billion human beings. So we have to think about 6 billion human beings, the whole planet. You Japanese, now time gone. Talk about Japan only. No. Now you must talk about the whole world, because Japan's future depends on the rest of the world. In ancient time, I think 18th century, 19th century, you see, nation to nation, more or less independent. So they themselves manage something like self-sufficient. Now today, that kind of situation completely changed. Even the United States, powerful nation, their future depends on the rest of the rest of the world. And look, the spirit of European Union. In the past centuries, these small nations, you see, fought for their own sovereignty, isn't it? The subject of the people of each nation, they really willing sacrifice their own life to save their own national sovereignty, these things. Now they realize common interest is more important than individual interest. The individual's interest very much mixed with common interest. So therefore, after Second World War, I think during de Gaulle and Adenauer, you see the new concept, European Union created. The euro, these like German Deutschmark, very powerful currency, but they are willing to sacrifice. But the Italian lira, like Japan's yen, because of the not much, because of the value. So then, okay, but even is powerful, like German, you see, they willing to sacrifice their own independent the sign of independence or sovereignty for common interest, like that. So these things are really a clear sign. People now getting more wider, because of that, people now realize wider interest is more important than one's own selfish, self-centered interest. This is very important. Now, Copenhagen Summit about global warming failed to bring concrete result. Why? Some important nation, they consider their national interest more important than global interest. That's why it failed. So some young nation still, thinking, their national interest more important than global interest. So world at large, these are changing. So therefore, I, as one human being out of 6 billion, so with sense of global responsibility, I have 2 commitments. Number 1 commitment is promoting inner value. Inner value means from birth, biologically, we equipped showing affection to others, sense of concern about others' well-being. From childhood, this biological factor, we already equipped these things. So that's very, very precious, because we are social animal. Individual life depend on others, other members. So therefore, emotionally, there is something which brings together. That is human affection, human compassion. So whether believer or non-believer, these things are biologically equipped. So I always say, now, according to scientists, latest scientific finding, warm-heartedness is very important for healthy body. So sometimes they call healthy mind, healthy body. It is true. Constant anger, fear, actually eating our immune system, according to some scientists. So more compassionate mind automatically bring inner peace, calm mind. Calm mind, very essential for healthy body. So therefore, these things I describe as a human value. So wherever I go, I always try to make clear. The money important, but these inner sort of wealth is more important than external wealth. This is my number one commitment. The second commitment, I am Buddhist. All major religious traditions, in spite of different philosophy, all have same potential and also same message of love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, self-discipline. So therefore, different religious traditions have same, so to say, potential to help humanity and to bring these inner human value. So then, because this is different philosophy, fighting and more division and fighting is silly, baseless. Different approach is necessary. Different philosophy necessary in order to benefit or in order to influence or impact the different people, because different people, different mental disposition. So just one philosophy is simply not sufficient. We need variety of philosophy, variety of approach, way of approach. It's more useful to a variety of people. So long, the aim is same. Try to bring more compassionate sort of person, more sort of what's the truthful person, or truthfulness, compassion. These are the object, all major religious tradition. So it's the same goal, different method. It's necessary. Different method is necessary. Within Buddhism, there are different philosophy, different concept of reality. Buddha himself, you see, taught different contradictory philosophy. Why? Among his own followers, there are different people, different mental disposition. So just simply one philosophical view will not sort of say sufficient to a variety of people within his own sort of follower. So obviously we need different way of approach. But these are just different way of approach. But the essence is same, to bring inner peace. So therefore, there is common ground and a common goal. So therefore, you see, try to bring closer relation between different religious tradition. So this is my number two sort of commitment, to promote harmony among the different religious traditions. So that's almost the introduction of myself.